The Insta360 ONE X2. Some of you may remember when I first bought this camera about 6 months ago, and it's a pretty neat piece of kit. It gives you a lot more freedom when it comes to camera angles, when it comes to the types of shots that you're able to take compared to traditional action cameras. And it certainly gives viewers a more contemporary viewing experience on social media. It's also perhaps one of the best bang for buck 360 action cameras you can currently buy. And some of you may even remember when we used to have 360 footage featuring in every single video. So why have I stopped using it? After all, it wasn't a cheap camera at about 450 quid. And I kind of went all in with the concept. I also bought the invisible selfie stick, a mic adapter, spare batteries, and a case that gave me more flexibility when it came to mounting it to my motorcycles. And yes, I am aware that the ONE X2 released recently also. However, even this next generation 360 camera can't fix the issue that I've found. Well, it all comes down to use case. For amateurs and professional users of a camera like this, the tech hasn't quite matured enough to be viable yet, at least in my humble opinion. For the casual user though, I really don't see any issues with this camera. But what I am going to reference in this video may be something that you want to keep in mind if you are looking to buy a 360 camera in general. So before we do a deep dive into what I mean, let's go over a few specs. The Insta360 ONE X2 is capable of shooting 5.7K up to 30 FPS, 4K at up to 50 FPS, and 3K at up to 100 FPS in 360 mode. And for wide angle mode, it can do 1440p at 50 FPS and 1080p at up to 50 FPS. I'll leave a link in the video description of the ONE X2 webpage so you can get a rundown of all the specs there if you want to. Now, I didn't want to go into too much detail about its photo capabilities because I'm not really too sure why you would actually want to take a photo with this kind of camera, but just for your reference, it can shoot 360 photos up to 6K and panoramic photos up to 4K. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that the main function that most people are going to be using a camera like this for is video. By the way, as with most action cameras, audio quality isn't great. So if you are an amateur or professional, I would recommend getting a separate audio capture system. And speaking of audio capture, I do have a video in the pipeline about the best audio setup for motovlogging coming in the near future, so make sure you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. Now, before I get on to the issues that I have with this camera, and I think these issues also apply to 360 cameras in general, I do want to mention that this has been one of the most reliable cameras I've ever used. A lot of GoPro users will probably know what I'm talking about here, but they regularly crash and you have to keep reformatting the SD card to try and prevent it happening. And it's happened to me on a few shoots and it ruins an entire shoot, especially if you've got the mic adapter connected to the GoPro and you're actually running the audio directly to the GoPro. But I've had no such issues with the Insta360 ONE X2. And I don't even think I've had to reformat the card either. Just remember to always use a V30 SD card when it comes to these kinds of cameras. Its battery life is also pretty good, around about an hour and a half of continuous filming, and that's especially true when compared to a GoPro Hero 10 Black shooting at 4K 60. Its stabilization is pretty much industry leading, and it's waterproof up to 10 meters, so it sounds like a pretty good camera so far. However, one of the most glaring issues that I've had with this camera is editing the footage. The editing process is very geared towards using the phone app, which it sounds great for the casual user, just being able to edit the footage on your phone and then uploading straight to social media. And in short, the phone app is significantly better than the desktop app. The app simply has more features. Like, for example, you're able to cut and splice footage using the jump cut tool, which for some reason is not available in the desktop software. I don't quite understand why, and it might get fixed in a future update from Insta360. I personally prefer to use Premiere Pro to edit all of our videos, and conveniently enough, Insta360 do have an add-in tool for Premiere Pro that allows you to import and edit the raw footage straight from your 360 camera. And in practice, it functions pretty well. But the biggest issue is export times. A 15-minute video exporting to 1440p normally takes around 2 to 3 hours on our current PC hardware to export. Any projects that contain 360 footage, however, can take up to 12 hours. And I've even had projects take up to 20 hours, depending on how much 360 footage I've used in the project. Totally unacceptable if you are a content creator releasing videos multiple times per week. And as for Apple Mac users, definitely let me know what it's like for you guys editing and exporting 360 footage with Apple hardware. Maybe you guys have a better time of it. I don't know. But yeah, definitely let me know your experiences with this kind of footage down in the comments. So anyway, I tried resorting to editing and exporting just the 360 footage from the Insta360 desktop software, effectively converting my 360 raw footage into 16:9 flat footage that I could then use in Premiere Pro, which was quicker. It would normally take up to 2 hours to export the video, which then I could import into Premiere Pro and edit the whole video. I know a lot of you video editors out there are probably cringing at the idea of having to export the exact same video footage twice over in 2 separate programs. And even though that saved me up to 10 hours when compared to using Premiere Pro alone, it still added an extra 2 hours to our production schedule, which is, again, totally unacceptable, especially when compared to just editing flat footage in Premiere Pro to begin with. My PC hardware isn't that pedestrian either. I'm running a Lenovo Legion 5 laptop equipped with a Ryzen 7 5800H processor with 8 cores, 16 threads, an NVIDIA GTX 3070 laptop GPU, and 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. Yes, I am a computer nerd also, if you hadn't noticed. So I'm pretty sure that my hardware is not the issue here, and maybe future updates to Premiere Pro, the Insta360 software, and hardware drivers may help with this. I don't know. I'm sure I'll still use the Insta360 every now and then for special shoots, special projects that we have lined up, but for the most part, it's going to be kept in my camera bag. Also, I like being able to shoot 60 FPS footage. It's the smoothest visual experience for the viewers. And I know that a lot of content creators out there like to use 24 FPS and 30 FPS, but for our content in particular, where it's in motion most of the time, 60 FPS is where it's at. And some of you may have spotted another problem here with the Insta360. The max frame rate this is able to shoot is 50. And that's at a lower resolution. I'd much prefer to be using the full 5.7K resolution, so it gives me more headroom when it comes to exporting to a flat image. But that only leaves me with 30 FPS. I don't know about you guys, but watching 30 FPS footage and 60 FPS footage in the same video can be pretty jarring for viewers. It's not the best viewing experience. So instead, I tend to stick to the 4K 50, so it stays as close as possible to the GoPro's 4K 60. Some of you may be wondering how that's a low resolution. I mean, it's shooting at 4K 360, right? Well, it's not quite that straightforward. 4K 360 is the total resolution around the entire image. Normally, on a flat image, 4K would look really sharp as the pixels are all concentrated into the frame that you are looking at. In 360 footage, the 4000 pixels are stretched around the whole image. So when you come to export the footage to a flat format, you're left with only a fraction of the total pixels. I tried to get away with exporting 360 footage at 1440p. However, most will agree that a flat image from a 4K 30 shot is probably closer to 1080p in effective resolution. And when you've got 4K 60 GoPro footage next to 1080p 360 footage in the same video, again, it isn't really the best visual experience. Speaking of resolution and frame rate, it would have been really, really nice if the Insta360 ONE X2 could shoot a flat 4K or even 2.7K shot at 60 FPS, as it would have been far more versatile in the normal shoots that I would do whenever I'm out on a moto vlog. If it could do that, I wouldn't have bothered buying a spare GoPro Hero 9 Black as a secondary camera. And turns out that can shoot 2.7K at 60 FPS. One area I have found some use in with the Insta360 is actually at my martial arts gym. Being able to simply pop the camera in the middle of the hall and capture everything that's going on allows me to create multiple videos from one shot, which is pretty neat. So at least for me, it hasn't gone totally to waste. Concluding this video, I think the Insta360 ONE X2, and for that matter, 360 cameras in general, are largely gimmicks. They may be great for the casual user, being able to capture important life events or showing some cool stuff to your mates, But for professionals and aspiring professionals such as myself, I find it very difficult to recommend this camera or cameras like it. I mean, at pretty much 500 quid, it's a very expensive gimmick, especially when you consider that other action cameras on the market have higher frame rates and bigger resolutions, better resolutions. Its only real standout feature is the 360 function, which, to be fair, is pretty much the same across the board with 360 cameras. If in future the editing process becomes close to or the same as standard flat footage, then I may reconsider using it, especially if I'm able to in Premiere Pro. But at least for now, I think I'm going to be sticking to flat image cameras for ease of editing and overall image quality and frame rate. Even though I am a moto vlogger and this is kind of like the first tech video that we've ever done, I hope that this video has helped you out in deciding whether or not to buy one of these cameras, regardless of which background you come from. These kinds of cameras do have a lot of appeal with a lot of different audiences and a lot of different markets. So I actually really hope that the issues get fixed with this kind of camera for professionals. It just adds a different flavor to watching flat footage, if you know what I mean. So I hope that sooner rather than later I am able to come back to this, and hopefully I'll be able to make another video in future about actually recommending it. Because a lot of this stuff that I've mentioned in today's video can be fixed. It's just whether or not Insta360 or Premiere Pro, the software used for professionals, actually decide to fix it. But anyway, thank you ever so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. Leave a like if you'd like to see more content like this in future. And of course, let us know down in the comments if you've worked with 360 cameras in the past and if you've got any tips or tricks for either myself or other users of these kinds of cameras. But yeah, thanks again. We'll catch you in the next one.